Last year, 1,800 people thought to be victims of domestic exploitation were referred to the UK modern slavery protection system. Now, that is a huge amount of people, and it comes right as British lawmakers are talking about bringing in new immigration laws that would bar some migrants from any protection. We're going to be talking about those issues with Arno Pedram from Infomigrant in just a moment, but first, your report highlighting the problem.
This is the place that I'm talking about, that I came from. We came from.
Lily was brought to the UK by her UAE employer in 2019 to work as a domestic worker. Soon after her arrival, she ran away from her employer to save her life.
He was screaming, talking to someone on the phone, and then he immediately took a gun who pointed on us like, if you guys will escape in this house, I will shoot you, because 3 other Filipinos escaped from this family.
The mansion was guarded by 12 security men. There were cameras everywhere. After sneaking her way out, Lily contacted Filipino community organizations who welcome victims of modern slavery. The Filipino Domestic Workers Association rescues dozens of women like her every year.
Most of them were not given their salary. They work almost, say, 16 hours or more. They have no day off, so there's no way for them to get out of the place. And some of them said that they tried to go out, but the doors are locked, and there's no way for them to get out of the building. They were not given food.
In the UK, victims of slavery can apply for protections under the National Referral Mechanism, but the procedure is long and difficult. Lily has been waiting for 2 years for the decision on her case. In the meantime, she has been working, and she set up a house for other Filipinas like her escaping forced labor.
These 2 persons here, they're also from NRM. They're just new.
Finally, like, I feel freedom. I can go outside, I can talk to anyone, because before we cannot talk to anyone. Like, like same Filipino. No, we're not allowed. Freedom to eat, freedom to eat anything, everything. Like, we can talk to our family anytime. Yeah, it's more important for me.
Last year, about 1,800 victims of domestic exploitation were referred to the UK modern slavery protection system. The FDWA is fighting to get better domestic worker visas to prevent slavery and better protections for victims of slave labor.
They did not decide to come here. They were brought here by the rich employers. They have already been abused where they came from. They were brought here, and the abuse continues. And who will protect them? We were only able to rescue a few of them. How about those who were not able to seek help?
Rights! Migrants' rights are human rights!
Domestic work is work! That report from Arno Pedram, who joins me now on the set. Arno, you work for Infomigrant, which is our sister website filled with practical information to help migrants. Tell us about these women. How did they end up in these situations? Who are they?
Yeah, so it's important to note that this is a very specific subset of victims of modern slavery in the UK. It's Filipina domestic workers. And so they are women who left the Philippines because they're supporting sick parent or child, or supporting their children in general. They're single mothers. And they leave for Hong Kong, Singapore, the Gulf countries, where they work for an employer there, and they're tricked into signing a visa to go to the UK, and often taken to the UK without their consent. And once they arrive there, they end up in the situations that we describe in the report, and they're under a visa, so they're here legally, but the visa is a bit difficult for them to, it's difficult for them to switch employers on that visa and get away from these dangerous situations.
And you say in the report that the national referral mechanism is complicated. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's 2 things. So once these women escape these situations, they can fall in what's called the gap of protections by advocacy group. Basically, that is, if they're exploited by their employer, they're like violating labor law, but it does not amount to slavery. They fall in this gap where they're not protected by the NRM, and their only option is to take a lawyer and go to court against their employer, which is absolutely not something that's reasonable for them to consider, like they don't have the money or the time and their employer is really rich, so that's absolutely out of the cards. And the second thing is the waiting time. So we'll see on screen there are 2 steps to the NRM. You get a first answer within 5 days and then a second answer about 2 years after that, and the waiting time is increasing. The issue is if you get your first answer after your worker visa has expired, you cannot work while you wait for the second decision, which is also something that is impossible for them to consider because they urgently need to bring money back home to a sick parent, to children that are alone, fending for themselves. And so that's pushing them again to work in informal labor markets and potentially get enslaved all over again.
And what happens to these employers, many of them very wealthy, these employers who are exploiting these women?
So it's very hard to find statistics on what happens to those, but the advocacy groups and the referral group that I talked with told me that the rates are abysmally low. And they point to the fact that the London police used to have a trafficking unit, but it was disbanded in around 2010. So that's making it harder to take those cases into account. Lily, that we see in the report, her employer that we see here, her employer is from the UAE, and basically she told me that her case was dropped because he left for the UAE, got in trouble there with the law for an unrelated case, and so they dropped her case and she will never see justice.
And what about the advocates who are trying to help these women? What do they want to help protect them?
So they want the visas to be more flexible so that the women can switch employers more easily, that they can apply for protections and not fall into this thing where they have to not work for all this time while they're waiting for a final decision. And they're hoping for also more efforts to prosecute those employers and justice.
And for our viewers, if people want to learn more about the procedure, they can go to the website, I'm assuming.
That's correct. So we have an article that details all of the technicalities of the NRM. So you will find that on our website at infomigrants.net.
Okay. Thank you so much, Arno, for that and for your reporting. Arno Pedram there from our sister website, Infomigrant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.